Trump-era anti-Semitism policy expected to fuel flood of student lawsuits against universities. Columbia University students hold hands and participate in a rally and vigil in support of Israel on October 12, 2023 in New York City. Spencer Platt, Getty Images. Time equals 400 ms. greater than as campuses across the country continue to erupt in protests over the Israel-Hamas war. A little-known 2019 presidential executive order is expected to fuel a flood of student legal claims against universities. Attorneys, from a mix of white shoe corporate firms to Jewish advocacy groups, are meeting with students who say their schools are failing to protect them from anti-Semitic or anti-Israel conduct. In 2019, then-President Donald Trump signed an order instructing federal officials to expand the interpretation of Title V of the 1964 Civil Rights Act to include discrimination rooted in antisemitism, as a form of discrimination based on race, color and national origin, prohibited behavior for programs that get federal funding. Trump signed the order amid a series of violent incidents against Jews, including the 2018 killing of 11 congregants in a Pittsburgh synagogue and a 2019 attack that killed 3 inside a Kosher supermarket in New Jersey. Title V of the 1964 Civil Rights Act does not include the word religion as a subject of discrimination. Because the law does not list religious characteristics, legal experts say, federal officials have gradually expanded interpretations to include ethno-religious groups. Trump told federal agencies to consider using the Sweden-based International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's definition of antisemitism, which includes holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the State of Israel, and drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. The alliance promotes Holocaust education and research, and has come under criticism by both Jewish and non-Jewish groups for suggesting that broad criticism of Israel can be construed as anti-Semitic. In January 19, 2021, the day before Trump left office, the U.S. Department of Education released a 5-page questions and answers memo defining what constitutes anti-Semitism at schools. An NBC News review of the department's current investigations showed 15 pending cases related to race or national origin. The most recent filing listed was against Oberlin College in Ohio, dated a week before the Hamas attacks on Israel. Melissa Landa, an alumna of the college, told NBC News that she filed the letter because the school didn't intervene after a professor taught students that Israel is an illegitimate settler colonial apartheid regime. According to Landa, I think that students need to file Title V complaints so that universities can have federal money withheld from them. And maybe that will make them act, Landa said. I hope that my Title V complaint will serve as an example for them. A spokesperson for the Department of Education said that since Hamas' October 7 terrorist attack on Israel, which killed more than 1,400 Israelis, we have seen an uptick in complaints and the department is assessing them all. Lawyers said they have received an overwhelming number of calls from across the country from Jewish college students and their parents requesting representation in Title V claims. Kenneth Marcus, who ran the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights during the Trump and George W. Bush administrations, said he is getting many calls. Oh, my God, I can't tell you how many campuses we're dealing with every single day. We have never been so inundated with cases, said Marcus, who now runs the Brandeis Center for Human Rights, a nonprofit focused on protecting the civil rights of Jews. In recent years, the Brandeis Center has filed Title V complaints against the University of Vermont and the State University of New York at New Paltz on behalf of Jewish students who said their universities have allowed anti-Semitism to fester on campus. In April, the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights said it found that the University of Vermont failed to investigate student claims of anti-Semitism and did not examine whether the complaints had created a hostile environment for Jewish students. Time equals 400 ms. greater than the University of Vermont signed a resolution agreement with federal officials later that month vowing to enact reforms such as expanding the school's discrimination policy to include protections for students based on shared ancestry, including anti-Semitism. In June, the Office for Civil Rights opened a formal investigation into SUNY New Paltz. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than for years. Marcus has also been fighting to broaden Title V protections to members of other ethno-religious groups. He said prior to the Trump administration, he wrote guidance memos that said Title V could be interpreted to include protecting members of other ethno-religious groups such as Sikhs and Arab Muslims. But in 2019, Trump kept his executive order focused on protecting Jews. In September, President Joe Biden issued a statement noting that Title V also prohibits Islamophobic activities in federally funded programs. But the U.S. Department of Education has not released a detailed memo that defines Islamophobia as it has done for antisemitism. Time equals 400 ms. Greater than Ghader Abbas, a senior litigation attorney with the Council on American Islamic Relations, said his team is preparing discrimination complaints on behalf of Muslim and pro-Palestinian students, who he says are being unfairly labeled as Hamas sympathizers or unfairly accused of providing support to terrorists. I think that pro-Israel groups that are seeking to marginalize Palestinian voices on campus, see the Title V claim as a way of attacking not the administration, but the other student groups, Abbas said. The idea is that they're going to censor or penalize or punish any advocacy for equal rights of Palestinians. As a result, he said, Palestinian students, or students who say they support Palestinian civilians in Gaza, feel vulnerable on campus and in their communities, and some are considering filing their own Title V claims. NBC News has reported that bias incidents against Muslims are on the rise. CAIR said that it received 774 reports of bias incidents in requests for help from Muslims across the country from October 7 through October 24, nearly triple the number compared to a similar time period last year. Abbas said that students, like all Americans, have a right to protest in the United States. In a conflict between the First Amendment and Title V, the First Amendment wins, Abbas said. Those student groups are participating in lawful activity. They're recognized willingly by their colleges and universities. 3 weeks before the Hamas attacks and the subsequent protests on American campuses, Palestine Legal, an advocacy organization for Palestinian rights, filed a Title V complaint with the U.S. Department of Education. Attorneys demanded a federal investigation after the University of Illinois Chicago barred students with Arab-sounding names from attending a January 2023 informational session on a university-sponsored Israel Study Abroad program. Legal experts said they expect the largest number of future Title V cases to be filed against universities by Jewish students. The Anti-Defamation League recently reported that nationwide, incidents of harassment, vandalism and assault increased by 388% over the same period last year. One of the most outspoken advocates for Jewish students' use of Title V since October 7 has been the Lawfare Project, a nonprofit that represents Jewish clients. Lawfare staffers have met with Jewish students on campuses, posted solicitations for cases in Jewish WhatsApp groups, and used the organization's social media accounts, End Jew Hatred, to recruit young clients. While we always had students reaching out to us, after October 7, that became a flood, said Lawfare senior counsel Gerard Filiti. While standing on the sidelines of a recent pro-Israel rally at Columbia University, the phone was ringing nonstop. Georgetown law student Julia Wax, 25, was also at the Columbia rally. Wax said she is in talks with Lawfare to file a Title V lawsuit against her law school, claiming that pro-Palestinian student organizations on her campus have been publicly supporting Hamas. I think in a perfect world, Georgetown would create some sort of an open forum for this conflict to be discussed, said Wax, adding that she wants Georgetown to adopt the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. In February 2020, Lawfare represented one of the first Jewish college students to file a Title V complaint against a university after Trump's executive order. Jonathan Carden, then 24, was a Columbia University student who said he was harassed by members of the campus group Students for Justice in Palestine. The group did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Cardin's complaint said students called him racist and a Zionist pig. Tensions further escalated as Professor Joseph Massad, who teaches modern Arab politics and has a history of criticizing Israel, referred to the military wing of Hamas as armed resistance, according to the complaint. Cardin's uncle was killed by Hamas militants in 1996 while hitchhiking in Israel. Time equals 400 ms, greater than, my professor endorsed the very same monsters, Cardin, who recently rejoined the Israeli army, said in a WhatsApp message. The Department of Education declined to comment on the status of the case. Cardin's younger brother, Isidore, also a Columbia alumnus, is pressuring the department to do more. Since the Hamas terrorist attacks, he has also helped organize pro-Israel events around the city and says he is frustrated by what he sees as Columbia's muted response to anti-Semitism. On Wednesday, Columbia University announced it was starting an anti-Semitism task force to come up with changes to academic and extracurricular programs. Columbia spokesperson Samantha Slater said in a statement that the university is beefing up security. Over the past few weeks, we have increased our public safety presence across all our campuses, Slater wrote. We are also working closely with outside security firms and are in regular contact with the New York City Police Department. Isidore Cardin said he and other young Jewish activists continue to feel that Columbia can do more. I don't think they are doing enough, he said.